We know exactly when it's about time of working with people there, it's not only about bringing money and doing projects, it's also about understanding the specific culture.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time, what happened in those international aids, people come, do project, and you know, they do it with good intention.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't take time to analyze not only the geopolitical aspect, but also the cultural aspect.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of time things are done wrong. They come, try to implant things, don't take the time to integrate, and following up their project after. They live the country, live them with equipment, don't give the appropriate formation, don't take time to integrate the culture in teaching them and integrate. And this is where we've been working now for what, together 17 years?
Yeah.
And one of our big things we've done, and I think this was a very big part of our success of our project, is doing through popular art. And this is where our core business was at the service of AIDS. Where, based on our expertise of entertainment, doing workshop, we integrate the notion of formation, integration of equipment, of explaining to those who are working with the community through popular art, the formation of people. So we went into school, used those people who do theater in their country, work with them some program where they could talk to their people about the importance of using the water or taking care of such a thing. And it stays much longer because then you integrate the community and you take the times to learn about their culture.
Unfortunately, we can't integrate these sort of actions into NGOs, though.
Actually, you could.
You could, but at the moment they're not receiving. It's
It's not true.
They're so bureaucratic.
No, it's not true.
Bureaucratic?
Well, certainly on the Geneva level, you know, they are so staid and closed, and it's really hard to bash the wall down.
Well, this is why I was saying, you know, I believe the power is much more in the individual than those are. Yes, the needs of changing some fundamental philosophy at that high level is important. But in the meantime, we cannot just wait about them. We have to take action, and we have to connect at the horizontal, not always trying to make things work at the vertical. You know, and this is where I think the power of the individual is so important, so crucial in the next future potential of going in and creating a new movement. The power of one, for me, is very, very potentially there. And you know, the advocacy could be done, like I said, vertical, take the hammer and hit. And some people needs to hit on the head of the government. But in the meantime, we need to organize ourselves.
Yeah. But I think Guy's absolutely right about the sustainability question. You know, if you're, it's terribly easy to think that you can go out to some place and do something. And actually, I was in America last week talking about, and I was actually talking to an admiral who was involved in Katrina and in Haiti. And he was saying that one of the real problems in that was, he said that there are all these SUVs turned up, and so I said, well, what's an SUV? And he said, as a spontaneous, uninvited volunteer. And it's absolutely right.
But isn't that the power of one?
Well, it may be, but if you're not, if you don't know what's going on in the circumstance, and if you don't know how that's going to be sustained, then you've got a real problem. It's back to that thing. You've got to really do the detailed knowledge about what's really going on there. You've probably got to have local people who really understand the local situation, understand why the teeth get knocked out. You know, that's the world that we live in now. It is the people of those places themselves to determine what's happening. And if you're going to go in and do anything, you've got to get inside that and be part of that, which is why most of us are now having, I mean, our stuff in Oxfam is now more than 95% of the countries where we work. That's really important. And even the others are mostly from around the world. They're not OECD expats anymore. That's really critical in understanding what's going on the ground and listening to people. So you've got to be careful what you're doing. And if you, as I say, if you want something sustainable, don't be an SUV.
Did you have a comment, Sifo? You wanted to jump in?
No, not really. But you know, just here, I do kind of agree with that. I think it's really important for people to understand what's going on. In terms of the power of one, I think everyone does have the power to change the world. But I have to say that in Africa, it's the power of the youth. Yeah, they're really moving. They're shaping things. They're holding government to account. They're fighting corruption. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question and throw it open to questions from you. Please don't disappoint me and this fine panel. with the power of your questions. And we'll have about 15 minutes for questions. So Barbara, I just wanted to ask something maybe a little bit skeptical about this power of one feeling. When disaster strikes, maybe most of us don't become an SUV, but that's the moment when we maybe think to pick up the phone and make a donation to Oxfam.
Yeah.
And then we forget about it.
Yeah.
How do you sort of balance, presumably, the desire to take advantage of that giving impulse when there's a disaster against the fact that it doesn't seem like a very effective way to fund philanthropy over the longer term?
Okay, but let's underestimate what's needed to be done at that moment. I mean,
so it's actually
the
good. We shouldn't downgrade
feel
that
good,
impulse.
Feel good. Yeah.
Two distinctive things.
Yeah. But feel good about doing it then, because usually in these circumstances, money really is badly needed. There are moments when it's gone overboard too far, but usually it's
disaster
not.
strikes. Pick up the phone.
Yeah,
don't
do it.
hesitate.
But,
don't intellectualize.
Yeah, but most of us, what we try and do after that is effectively take people on a journey and say, look, this is what happens now. Your human impulse is fantastic to help. Now you can actually look at some of the underlying reasons why that was happening and see if you can't work on that. Even if it's a simple thing of, we call disaster risk reduction now, trying to stop, even when say an extreme weather event happens, stop it actually affecting people by doing the work in advance. Can we get you on board to help with that stage? And that is enormously satisfying too. I mean, I think about Bangladesh, for example, where the cyclones come now and almost no people die, because actually all the work has been done to get people to understand about the early warning systems, getting people to higher ground and all those things. So I guess my thing is give when the spirit moves, but then really try and learn and stick with it and really understand.
How hard is it to convert us, those of us who are moved by disaster?
Pretty hard.
Pretty hard.
Yeah, I think so.
What's your conversion rate? Do you have
I can't remember actually. But just let's be clear though that actually people often come to us first though with the humanitarian crisis. There's no doubt about that. Your build-up of people who are supporters often does start. I don't know what it's quite a small percentage from the any individual one, but it will. But that is the place where a lot of people do start. And let's take advantage of that and give more information. And actually, with modern technology, social networks now, so many different things can be done now that really show people what matters, what's happening, and can move people on. So let's stick with it.
Questions? I have more, but it seems really unfair. Please.
Hi, Sebastian de Halle. What advice would you give to all those well-meaning people who, at some stage of their life, find themselves with either the economic means or the time to go and try to change the world, and who end up SUVs and becoming part of the problem? Isn't there a lack of education at home as to what those people should be doing instead of what they're currently doing? What would be your message to them?
I think that's an excellent question. Yeah, so what do you do?
Well, I mean, one of the things is, you may be right, maybe we're all of us, different people, not getting the message out, because there are lots of ways that people can come in and partner in a different way with other people who are deeply engrossed on the ground. I mean, if I can just give another example of things we're doing, we have an enterprise development programme, which is trying to get money of about, say, £100,000 to producer organisations who've really got so far, but they can't get money through the banking system. It just, they've got no collateral, etc. So we have an investment committee that puts money into those projects. Now, that's just one set of things in Oxfam, but there are loads around. But in that way, you can partner both by bringing the funds in, but actually quite often by bringing business skills in as well, and really being connected to something. Because I think that's often what people feel. They don't just want to give money. They want a connection. They want to know where their money's going, what it's doing. But I think more and more, certainly Oxfam, but many of the other agencies are really trying to find ways that people can really connect and take part in what's happening and learn that way as well. So that's what I would say to do. But Sifo.
I would encourage you to look for organisations that are transparent as well, because organisations like Kiva, I think, are going to rewrite the book. They really are. You are connecting with the person that you're donating the money to. Kiva is like an online donation service where you pick the recipient of your money, and then you invest in them, and then they pay you back directly. And Kiva are like the brokerage in the middle. But it's incredibly transparent, and I think that is going to set a new wave And obviously you can tell I'm the one who wants to kick out the old systems and bring in the new. And that's what I think we should be looking for, more transparency.
And how, Mark, just if I could just add a quick little follow-up there, how do you avoid transparent mistakes? Like, remember, we were all really excited about microfinance a few years ago, and now the air is going out of that, and people are saying, well, maybe microfinance doesn't really work.
Well, I think microfinance does work. It's just got some negative issues that are being raised and talked about, but that doesn't matter. We all make mistakes. We all have to fail, and at least people who try and are open about it and are willing to put their hand up, they're the ones we should be backing, not the ones that are closed and living on huge expense accounts. And we asked for a meeting to be called in an East African country. It's going to be in 3 weeks' time, and immediately we get, and these are all people in the town. Immediately we get a request saying it's $100 each to turn up. We're like, these are government ministers. Why do we have to pay them $100? I'm a charity. Why do I have to pay $100 for these guys to come and sit in a room and do their bloody job? That's ridiculous. And then we got a call.
It's really hard to take a meeting with you, Mark. Are you unpleasant in meeting situations?
If needs be. And then we got another request saying actually that we can't confirm the date until we get $6,000. That's just ludicrous. So it's, transparency is the way forward, I think.
Okay, Sifo, your advice to a wealthy, well-meaning technologist who wants to do good but not be an SUV.
I think, yes, just work with established organizations that are already doing the work. But I also want to say people react to what they see, and what they see is transmitted by the media. And I think it's really important for the media to begin to not only go deeper and learn, but also stay engaged and bring the success stories, because the only time that Africa really graces the news is when it's on the threshold of a catastrophe or right in the throes of a catastrophe. And I think it's important to begin to bring the success stories, because the aid business or the business of benevolence is really broad. You've got the traditional donors, the bilaterals, the multilaterals, the NGOs, the charities, the volunteers, and so on. But nobody talks about, the philanthropists. Nobody talks about the Africans in the diaspora who are actually visibly sustaining communities, from day to day. And, so the media needs to bring home these heroic efforts of Africans doing for themselves, because there is increasingly the perception, right or wrong, that Africa is there to be saved by everybody else, but Africans are actually doing a lot. So maybe as a technologist, partner with an upcoming technology company in Africa, and work with them. So there's a lot of options, work with, existing organizations, work through Kiva, and so on. But, I want to take this opportunity to appeal to the media to say, they need to do their part to tell the whole African story, not just part of the African story.
Yeah.
Guy, you have some final advice?
Well, for me, it's about knowing your subject. It's about first getting that emotional engagement toward and knowing where you want to be involved with. So before you give your money, I guess pick up your subject, learn well about it, and then you'll know where to go and where you will not be an SUV. Because once you know your subject, it's the same thing in business. If you know your subject in business, you'll be a good businessman. If you go and start a business without knowing where you're putting your money and what you want to do, you'll fail. It's the same thing. So learn your subject. Choose your subject, dig in it, check it out, and then after you'll do the right decision.
Okay. Satisfied?
Thank you.
More questions? Come on. Please.
Yeah, hi, Peter, hi. My question is the following. Say I want to give a few thousand euros. The way I've been doing it so far is, Africa, for example, is a beautiful country. I've been going there on holiday a lot. And somehow I think this is one of the best... Sorry?
What did you just say?
I've been going on holiday numerous times to Africa. It's a beautiful country.
It's not a country.
Yeah, it's not a country, sorry. But I've been to like the countries in Africa. Africa as a continent. If I should choose between donating a couple of thousand euros, say, to an organization or going there and spending the money, what's the better way? Because spending it, you give it into economy. assuming you're not going to luxurious international hotels, etc. But I'm trying to spend it with the locals or the small-sized business.
Okay, Guy,
well,
jump in
yeah,
there.
I think those are two distinctive things,
Yeah.
you know. And again, your pleasure is your pleasure, and this is part of generating and living your life. The commitment in philanthropy has to be integrated in your own culture, in your own daily concern. So those are two different distinctive things. I think you should do the two. Keep spending the money in Africa and put aside money to philanthropy, because those are two more fundamental things. Yes, you'll help Africa to generate an economy through tourism. Perfect. But give also money, because there's people who really are in need on that help. But choose your organization well. This is also very important.
And that's the issue then about the leverage. I mean, one is spending money, as you say, and that's the money goes out, and if it's 2,000, it's 2,000, it's gone. What you want to do, if you want to do another 2,000, you know, and put that into some sort of giving, then really think about how that money gets leveraged to make an awful lot more in those countries, because that's the key. You know, it's not just a spend, it's a leverage for real change.
Sifa, wouldn't these young Dembisa Moyo Africans that you were telling us about, wouldn't they actually prefer that we just all take lots of expensive holidays in Africa and earn that money rather than get handouts from us?
No, I think that's wonderful. Absolutely, I have nothing against it. But as I said, you know, these young Africans, they're looking for opportunities. They're looking for business opportunities. They're looking for jobs. They're looking for things that they're an aspirational generation, you know, and
they can run hotels.
They want to move on. You know, they want to get ahead, let me put it that way. So, yeah, they're looking for opportunities more than anything else. So it's wonderful, you know, if you go and you spend your money as you wish. But, you know, the question also, it's a personal choice. You know, do you want to do something that's really sustainable, or do you want to just do sort of an injection when you're there? I think it's, you know. No pun intended.
Got to go to safe syringes, of course.
No pun intended. But yeah, I think it's a personal choice, quite frankly.
But you're not giving us a pass. You're not going to say if we just take lots of holidays in poor countries.
Oh, I think it's wonderful for tourism, because, you know, tourism is a very big part of the African economy in most of the countries. You know, so if you inject into the tourism sector, I think it's absolutely wonderful. You know, like I said, it's a personal choice, and everything makes a difference.
There's something that I don't know, I heard that a couple of years ago, and it really influenced me in trying to give myself guideline in terms of my own philanthropy work or decision we made. One day I heard, if every individual who have over and above their 3 meals a day give 1% of their revenue a year, and every company 1% of their profit, not their revenue, but their profit, theoretically, there'll be enough money to worldwide to clear all poverty in the world. Not considering the geopolitical aspect and government aspect, but theoretically in terms of money. So as a first guideline, this is a very simple guideline. 1% of your revenue and 1% of your profit. And this is a very nice way of starting engaging. And I'm not talking about taking that 1% company-wise or person-wise to your community, because I think this is a responsibility of a business to be integrated and putting money in their own local community. And it's not the 1% that you will be affected by the debt of your father because he had cancer. This is another subject. We're talking about fundamental of addressing poverty in the world. That 1% dedicated to that. If every individual start, or every leader of a company start with that, I think we will be in a very, very good shape money-wise. Then we'll have to convince the government, hit them well on the head, making sure we make good decision, good partnership with countries that are willing to make the effort and are committed also to work together, because, you know, the question of sustainability and longevity of project doesn't come only from the donor side, but also from the people who are receiving and wanting the commitment of sustainability.
I mean, I think I can give a very good example of that is in the area of health. You know, the Global Fund and the Global Alliance for Vaccinations and Immunizations. You see that the African countries are actually making a great effort in really being engaged, and because they actually contribute to those multilateral funds. So, which is a really great thing. You know, it's one of those unique opportunities. And I think at the turn of this century, 10 years ago, less than 50,000 people were on HIV drugs, ARV medication. Now it's over 4 million, because of interventions like the Global Fund. Same thing, vaccinations against diphtheria, tetanus, and now you've got new ones. They've been really an outstanding success, So some of these sort of urgent areas that require intervention, particularly when it comes to life-saving, I think African governments are stepping up and really partnering very well with the partners and the funds involved.
It's partnership.
Yeah.
Can you guys just hang on to allow one final question because it's nearly 5 o'clock? Is that okay? So last question.
This is Ghassan Hasbani from the Middle East. Actually, it's a question quite related to what you just started discussing about sustainability and the involvement of governments. Now, I mentioned a lot now about governments in the receiving countries. How about governments in the donor countries? How much of an involvement have you seen over time from governments, either through foreign policy or support of philanthropy, coming out of more developed economies into economies in need of development and sustainable development? I'd like to hear your views on that particular part, following on from what you just started now.
Okay, blitz answers, otherwise the gong will go down.
Right, huge challenge. All those people, all those countries made commitments about aid in 2005 and they don't deliver. I can't imagine anybody, if I didn't deliver on some of my stuff, I'd be out of, work in a minute. But governments seem to be able to make promises that they don't deliver, so it's about time they did. Also, many of us need to keep working on what their foreign policies are and what they're doing, because so much of this is a much bigger questions. They are questions of world trade and so on that really need changing. That is what is keeping poor people in poverty as well. So a lot of work to be done. And if you really wanted to be brave in your philanthropy, you'd support a lot of campaigning people to change those rules, actually.
And one is one of those campaign organizations. We're an advocacy organization, and we really hold G8 leaders to account to keep their promises in terms of aid delivery. It's a struggle, it's ongoing, but I think we need to stay on that message, and that way we'll get as close as we can to them actually meeting their commitments. So, yeah.
I'm skeptical about it. I think it's too political in a way, the way that money is raised and visibly given. And I think just go back one paragraph to what Guy was saying. I think the 1% rule would be extraordinary because it's just a change of heart. It's an attitude that we need to get. It doesn't matter where the money goes. We need to change that ability. And imagine if everyone in the room said, right, I'm going to do it. What a result we would have. And 1% isn't going to make any difference to anyone's lifestyle.
Okay, I was hoping to have a fire breathing demonstration at the end, but you get the last word.
I just want to say one thing. Raise your voice because it's important if you want to influence your government, and follow your money in philanthropy. Be involved. Get involved. So take emotionally and engagement. It's not a sign check, feel good things, because that doesn't work. There's no sustainability at that level if you just sign a check. Follow your money, get involved.
Okay, follow the money, get involved. I think it's a slogan. Thank you very much.